Hey guys, it's Miss Sprint Cup Madison Martin hanging out today with 6-time Sprint Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson. Thank you all for joining us today on Inside Access with Miss Sprint Cup. We're taking some fan questions for Jimmy today prior to the Sprint All-Star race coming up tomorrow. So Jimmy, our first question comes from Hughes4Prez on Twitter. They want to know, what's your favorite memory of El Cajon Speedway in your hometown? The track is now completely gone.
Oh, that's so sad to hear. You know, I went there and watched a lot of races growing up, and the only racing I did on that track was on the go-kart track in the infield, and that was maybe once or twice. But my dad worked on a late model that raced there, so I would go and watch and sit in the grandstands. I remember eating corn dogs and peanuts and cotton candy and all this stuff in the grandstands and how much fun that experience was. But there was one particular weekend where they had an off-road racetrack built in the infield, and my dad worked on an off-road team at this point in time, and the guy he worked for had 2 buggies, and they let my dad race the second buggy. So to be there in the stands watching my dad race, I mean, this had to be like late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there. It was just so cool to know my dad was out there racing around.
Yeah, and with your dad racing around, how did that, impact your career?
It was neat because my dad raced some on motorcycles growing up before he was drafted into the Army. But when he came back, he was just such a fan of racing and didn't have a professional racing career, but loved it so much that we would, I mean, if it rained, he worked construction. If it rained, I knew my dad was going to pull me out of school at some point around lunchtime. We were going to go find a race somewhere to watch. So, and in Southern California, there was a lot of racing and a lot of places to go. Or we'd go ride our bikes, in the local hills and stuff. So, seeing the sport through my dad's passionate eyes is really what created my love for it and interest in it.
Very cool. All right, our next question comes from Captain Awesome. They want to know, what is your favorite cookie?
Okay. It's hard to go wrong with any cookie. I guess the first one that comes to mind is a black and white cookie in New York. Whenever I see one, when I'm in the city, my daughter and I have to take one down and fight over who gets what side of it. But peanut butter cookies are great. I mean, how can you knock chocolate chip? It's really hard to find a bad cookie.
All cookies,
yes,
for sure. All right, our next question comes from Facebook. Explain your daily balance of workout regimen and family life. It seems like a crazy schedule.
It is very crazy, for sure. And it depends on what I'm getting ready for. Lately, last 3 months, I've been preparing for an Olympic distance triathlon that I'm doing tomorrow morning, actually. So the last month has been very tough schedule-wise, and I've had a lot of 5 a.m. alarm clocks, and then try to train from 5:30 to 6:30, get home, get my girls going, as my wife doesn't wake up very fast. So, and then get Genevieve to school, and then while she's at school from 8 to 11:30 or so, I usually get in the second part of my training, and then pick her up from school, get her home, and then at that point in time, either there's team responsibilities or stuff around the house to be done and take care of. So that's kind of how I have balanced the last month. And then Saturdays, my family, with our youngest being so kind of fragile still, my family hasn't been to a lot of events lately, and I've had Saturdays off at the racetrack. Yeah. So there's a big cycling community in the garage area, and we've been going on super long rides on Saturdays. So that's been another key day for me to get my mileage in.
Very cool. Well, you're doing a triathlon tomorrow,
tomorrow
you just
morning.
said. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
How is that going to play out tomorrow, your day?
So I'll be up at probably 4:30. In the car at 5, and then the race is in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, so I'll be there. The race starts at 8. Hopefully done about 10:15, 10:20, and then pack up my stuff, head back to Charlotte, clean up, get something to eat, nap, and obviously hydrate a lot as well, and then come up to the racetrack. And I think my first thing is at 4:15 up here, so I should have a good 6-hour window to kind of recover and get some nutrition back in me so I can go racing tomorrow night. Very
cool. Well, our next question comes from Scotty. He wants to know, how do you feel about competing against other teams with Team Hendrick engines?
It's something I've always been used to, so it really doesn't affect me. I watch friends, family, others nearby that respond and think, wow, you're getting beat by your own equipment that's got to stink. And I look at it more as it stinks period to get beat. And in certain situations, and the way the thing's designed is that we can communicate between Stewart-Haas Racing and Hendrick Motorsports. So that line of communication continues to open. We have a database where everything's in there, but how and when and why you use things for your race car is kind of the hard thing to sort out. So building a relationship with the Stewart-Haas crew chiefs and drivers is so key, so we can have that verbal discussion and then think about their setup and try to apply that to our race car.
Yeah, for sure. Our next question comes from Brian Reese. They want to know, what is your favorite part about racing here in Charlotte?
Gosh, there's a couple. I mean, I guess generally speaking, just being around everybody you know. This is home, so friends, family, co-workers, across the board, everybody wants to come and be a part of what goes on out here over the 2 weeks. So to have that hometown feeling, and I'm very fortunate that I get that hometown feeling in California and then also here. So I guess that's really what it is, that sense of being home and competing at home.
Yeah, and if you win the Sprint All-Star race tomorrow, you'll have won it 4 times. What would winning that race again mean to you?
It'd be incredible to do it. I mean, we've been able to win a lot of very big races and do some neat things with championships. And it never gets old. What does get difficult is how to explain the meaning of it, because I want to have this amazing response, but it's tough to verbalize it. It's so hard and so difficult to win in the Cup Series. And what we have accomplished is incredible. And then to have an opportunity at a 4th or 3 in a row here in the All-Star race is pretty awesome. Yeah,
very awesome for sure. Rubbing is Racing via Twitter asks, next week you're going to be a part of the Hall of Fame voting panel. Are you excited for it or are you nervous?
Probably a little of both. And the process and understanding the process has been helpful for me to slow down the nerves. I have a huge booklet and I've been able to read and learn a lot about everybody that's up for the Hall of Fame, and there's also another award that's I think new this year, so some names to consider there and to read through. But we're going to sit down on the 21st in a big room with 20-ish people and talk through it all, and I'm really excited for that opportunity. It's going to be a lot of fun, and to be the first driver ever in any Hall of Fame voting process, or first athlete, I should say, in any type of Hall of Fame setting is another big honor I'm proud of.
It's very cool. All right, so we have another question from Tina Hartz Athens. She says, all right, Jimmy, you already have 4 members in your immediate family, which means you only need 3 more people to get your Sprint family plan as low as $25 a month. Which driver would you ask to join you in your Sprint family?
I'm trying to think of something funny here.
No lug nut?
Sure, lug nut works. Boy, anybody. If I was smart, I would go over to Hendrick Motorsports with our 600 employees and loop everybody in.
a big old happy family. All right, Bobby wants to know, why are the Fords faster and the Toyotas slower this season this far? Is it the new rules package?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of change this year for sure. I look at it more team-based, and you look at teams that have really found speed, and it even is a little bit more of a narrow focus, and you look at driver crew chief pairings. Last year at Penske, Paul Wolf and the 2-car didn't make the chase, and Paul and Brad, they do an awesome job. There's no way around it. And for them to have time to focus on 14, I'm sure helped a lot for 14. And Penske's been developing quickly. They've always been good, but they've taken that next step. And then I look at Rodney Childers and the Kevin Harvick pairing. Rodney was asked to not go to the racetrack anymore once he agreed to work for Stewart-Haas Racing. And Rodney, again, a very smart guy, and has done a lot of work to get his car in position. So when I look at the flip side of that, you look at Gibbs was fighting for a championship last year, and so was Hendrick Motorsports, especially the 48 team. I mean, my teammates have shown some different speed at different times, and have been able to win, and we're still obviously working on that. But you look at the Gibbs guys, and I almost wonder if we were all so busy chasing a championship in 13 that maybe we just didn't get off to the same start or had the same starting point on the 2014 rules package. So we're testing, we're working hard. I feel like the 48, although we have not had a win yet, we've been very close and have had some really good races. Of course, we want to be more consistent in the top 3 more often and get to winning, and I feel like that's right around the corner.
How does the different type of cars, really impact the way each team drives?
The no height rule really changed the way we set up our race cars. And the springs were with a height rule. We're all kind of boxed in with the springs in order to maintain the minimum ride height that NASCAR allowed. Now with no minimum ride height, you have any spring option you want, and then also the softer the spring is, the higher you have to start your car because it's going to compress. But if you put a 10,000-pound spring in the car, it's not going to collapse, so then you can drop your overall ride height. And that combination of wheel load versus, track or versus the height of the car, there's a bunch of variables that come into play that are all different. And where before we had 5 or 6 things to really focus on, now we have like 25 things to focus on. So it's great that we have more tools and more options, but finding exactly what produces speed, it's a little bit longer road to get there.
Yeah, it definitely makes a big difference. Okay, Holly Ann Lloyd from Facebook wants to know, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
10 years, I will be the great age of 48.
The perfect number,
The perfect number. Maybe that's when I put the helmet on the shelf for full-time cup racing. I don't know. I'm still going to be racing. I don't know if it's cup, if it's back to my off-road roots, if it's running sports car events, whatever it may be. I have a long window of racing still ahead of me, and I still love racing in the Cup Series day after day. So racing for sure.
Yeah, you gotta make it to 10 championships.
That would be pretty awesome. DPEX86
on Twitter wants to know, hey Jimmy, in your free time, do you follow other sports? If so, which and who are your favorites?
I don't really follow a ton of other sports. I love watching playoffs and championship games and stuff. So I usually come to the party late and tune in. But anymore, I just haven't had time to turn the television on. With 2 young ones, the training stuff that's been going on for my kind of hobby with triathlons, work schedule, family life, all that is, we're lucky to turn the television on at night before we go to bed. So I haven't been able to keep up with a lot. Occasionally I'll have SportsCenter on and at least know what's been going on, but pretty far removed and just know about racing.
Gotcha. Well, we've had some great fan questions come through, and it seems like everyone's really excited, for the NASCAR Sprint All-Star race tomorrow. I know me, Kim, and Juliana are very excited about the $1 Million music playlist that we actually created for Spotify, and it sounds great on our new HTC One M8 Harman Kardon Edition phone. So I'm curious, if you could add a song to your $1 Million playlist, what song would it be?
I didn't know about this $1 Million playlist. You all 3 created it?
We are. We're in on it.
How does the $1 Million number? How does it pay out the $1 Million? What has to happen?
There's no $1 Million. It's just a playlist.
Oh, I see. I thought somebody was going to get $1 million in this deal.
You might tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes, the winner of the race. Man, I don't know why, but "Cake's Going the Distance" is just the first song that popped up in my head. It's obviously racing related, and need to go the distance tomorrow.
Is that one of your running songs?
It is in my, yeah, it's a great running song for sure. An old one, but it's definitely got an upbeat thing going on to it.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, Vicky Underwood, whose handle is @48fanforever, asks, how are the girls? How's Evie's dance class going?
Thank you for being a fan, and thank you for your tweet. The girls are great. I wish they were traveling a little bit more with me to the racetrack, but we've had so many night races and West Coast events. We just didn't want to put Lydia through all of that. She's just now 8 months old and the happiest baby ever. She does nothing but smile. And Genevieve loves being a big sister, and things are going great. We're finally getting some movement out of her. We'll lay her on her stomach and she'll kind of scoot along a little bit. So she's going to be mobile soon, and we're going to be extra busy then.
Very cool. Do you get to take them to dance class?
I do. I take my my oldest to her dance recital, or to her dance classes and her dance recital Sunday morning, actually. So
awesome.
We're excited for that. There's some days she's into it, and other days she won't leave my lap to go upstairs to dance. Sometimes she comes down early and just wants to go home. So, of course, we're not pushing her at this age to do anything, but she's enjoyed it, and she is actually really excited for recital Sunday.
Will they ever get behind the wheel of a car, a race car?
I keep asking her. I bought her a 4-wheeler for Christmas, and she loves it and rips around on it in the backyard. Jeff Gordon bought his daughter a quarter midget recently.
Yeah.
And we're obviously around he and his family, and then Casey Mears and his family. So there's cars and girls and driving all there, and Genevieve is very aware what her friends are doing and has talked about getting behind the wheel of either a go-kart or a quarter midget. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see what happens soon.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be really exciting for you. Caitlin Farrell wants to know, do you have any pre-race superstitions?
No, I have at different points in time, but nothing plays out. Anymore, I just really look for kind of a peaceful environment. You know, I'm not all that talkative before an event. Kind of like it to be quiet, get something to eat, stretch, get inside my own head. And then what's so different with our industry versus any other sport, when we leave our motorhome and go to driver intros, you're in front of a lot of people for an hour, something like that, between intros, you go to the front stretch, opening ceremonies, all that goes on. And that's a point in time that most athletes use to get ready for their event. We don't have that luxury. So I need to kind of get that time to get in the zone before I head out to all of that. So following the driver's meeting up until I leave for driver intros, I just try to slow things down and relax.
That makes sense. So what Kate Taste via Twitter asks, you mentioned nutrition for tomorrow after the triathlon. What's your favorite pre-race meal?
What's neat right now with 2 events tomorrow, it's all about carb loading today. So all of you pasta lovers, that's all. I just get to crush as many calories, carb focused today as possible. So I've got some big plans for pizza tonight, and just snacking all day long on things that you normally would stay away from. I'm gonna need every calorie I can get and all the carbs I can get today.
What kind of pizza? Do you have a specific type of
I'm just
topping?
gonna keep it simple, and my favorite is a Hawaiian pizza.
Oh, with the
love
ham?
Hawaiian, ham and pineapple, but I think I'll keep it simple with cheese and everything today.
Cool. Rubbing is Racing asks, if you're going to do anything with your key to the city of Charlotte that you recently received.
I have no idea. There's been a few good ideas tossed around, but it's kind of difficult to find anything that will fit, a slot that will fit the key. But a huge honor. It was great to be in front of City Council here in the Charlotte area, and a fun afternoon for sure.
What's the key look like? Is it a big key?
Yeah,
or?
it's pretty big. Yeah, it's a generous size key for sure.
It's a cool thing to get. You know you've made it when you've gotten the key to the city. Caroline Katz via Facebook wants to know, what is the coolest car in your garage at home?
Well, it depends who you ask. My wife has an opinion of, we probably have 5 or 6 cars that we've collected, and she's very fond of her 1959 powder blue Volkswagen Bug. It's a very, very cool car. Her mom had a Bug. I think everybody's mom had a Bug back in the day, but it really reminds her of her childhood and is her favorite. And I have some fast, fun cars to drive, but I'd say my favorite is my 1948 Woody Wagon.
Very
so
cool.
it's very close to the way it was in 48. 3 on the tree, it's a straight 6-cylinder engine. Top speed's like 50. Everything starts shaking and vibrating, but it's such an old classic. It's really cool.
Do you take it out very often?
We do. It's the only car that we can get car seats in that we have that's kind of old.
Wow.
So we'll run over to grab pizza somewhere or ice cream or something like that.
Very neat.
Summer.
Well, Holly Ann Lloyd wanted to say thank you, Jimmy. I'll be watching you wherever you are. And then we have a fan, Jamie Vaughn, who asked if you could just give him a shout out.
Shout outs. Shout out to Jamie and anybody else requesting one.
All right, Drew5 via Twitter asked, are you running any special patriotic paint schemes for the Coca-Cola 600 or the Coke Zero 400?
This week, so AllStar and then the 600. You see the hat's a little different, the red shirt. We do have a patriotic paint scheme for this weekend, and I'm not aware of anything for the 400.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So which paint scheme do you prefer? Because you have so many different ones.
We've been mixing it up. I personally like the change. I've always thought our Lowe's cars look good, and really last year I thought the solid black Cobalt car and then the solid blue Lowe's car was very strong with identity and looked great. This year's white car is great, and I like the little trim differences we've had. The patriotic paint scheme though is probably my favorite window of time. We used to do it for 2 weeks, and then when we're honoring all the men and women that have served our country through Memorial Day, to have that fire suit on, to have a race car saying thank you and drawing awareness to, there's a really cool vibe that goes with that.
I'm sure there is. So what Kate Taste, again, asks, for all the race fans headed to Charlotte, what's your favorite local eatery?
Man, there's some good ones. I would say, by the track, I'm not all that familiar with, but as you head down into the Charlotte area, there's a funky, cool area called Noda, and I would run over to Cabo Fish Taco, get yourself a cold Corona with a lime in it, and some Mexican food. It's a good spot.
That's your favorite?
Well, I'm just thinking practical reasons. It's in between. It's not too far away from the track. It's close to downtown. It's a good little area with other spots to socialize and hang out. And then as you get downtown, and you can go fancy to one of the great steakhouses. You can keep it casual, and there's a cool market. I'm not sure if you've been to the 7th Street Market.
Yeah.
So that's a fun area to go for lunch and to chill out. You go into this old building right next to the light rail system, and there's food and drink and shopping and all kinds of stuff inside this little market area. It's pretty cool.
So what's your favorite fish taco then?
Grilled fish taco,
just a
slices of avocado, pico de gallo, and some lime.
Sounds pretty good.
Let it rip.
I'm hungry for lunch
Yes.
now. All right, BOA for Life asks, what do you do with those big checks they present when you win the Sprint AllStar race? Are those legal?
They are not legal, but I collect them, and I have a warehouse where I keep all of my stuff, and we've got an interesting stack of all those big checks. So it's pretty cool to flip back through them and look at them.
So you keep them, you have all of them.
My parents kept everything
You've got a
when
lot
I
of
was
checks
young,
then.
and I've kept that going as well. And I have a pretty big space now to contain it all.
So there's a room dedicated to the checks?
Yeah, it's actually, I want to put them on the wall because they're pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
But I've got a nice stack of those
That's
big
an awesome
foam
idea.
checks. Yeah.
Happy Gilmore fan, which is a great Twitter handle, wants to know, what's your favorite sports movie and what's your favorite racing movie?
With a handle like that, I feel like I need to mention Happy Gilmore and give it an honorable shout out.
Of course.
Racing movie, the one that still today I can't stop thinking about is the Senna documentary. It is such a strong, strong movie. And as a driver, there's some way that I identify with the journey and what happens, and I don't know, it really gets me deep. And I think anyone that's seen it, it certainly grabs them. But as a race car driver, you take people to your world and try to show it to them, and it's hard to really show them what it's like. And I think that movie really gets deep inside the true emotions and feelings and experience of being a race car driver, and it's a solid movie.
If you were asked to do a movie about your life and your 6, Sprint Cup Series championships, would you do it?
I'd certainly have to entertain it. If the right players were in mind and it was going to be a big production, you'd definitely have to entertain it.
Gotcha. Race Fan Forever asks, of your 66 Cup wins, is there one that stands out as your favorite?
It's so hard, but the easy answer for me is my first one. When I was picked by Jeff Gordon and Rick Hendrick in 2000, August of 2000, my first full season was in 2002. So here I am 8 months into my nationwide career. I think my best finish was like 8th or 9th at the time. And they say I'm the guy. They're going to start a 4th team and put me in this race car. I didn't know what they saw, but I wasn't going to draw any attention to it, that I hadn't won a race and wasn't sure what they were seeing. And as things progressed, in 2001, Jeff won the championship, and they gave me his entire fleet of race cars going into 2002. And I knew that it was a win or die situation, essentially. And to get my first win and have it in my home state, my home track, was really a cool experience, and helped validate a lot of questions I had about myself. Can I do this? Am I able to win? I've chased this dream since I was 5, and here I am. With this equipment and this opportunity, can you do it? So that was a huge, huge moment for me.
I'm sure. And now 66 wins later, is it still just as exciting as it was, that first race win?
It is, and the reason being is it's always changing in the garage area. Rules are changing, tires are changing, tracks are changing. Who you need to race, who has the stuff that year, that weekend. It is ever changing, and it never gets old.
The Chuck Bush wants to know, if you could race against any driver, living or dead, who would it be?
Well, my discipline, it would be Earnhardt. I look back and I think it's amazing the King is still here in the garage area, and we get to see him day in and day out. But watching television, he was maybe just too far away in time, it seemed like, for me to visualize racing against him. And Senior was the guy that I so badly wanted to race against. And honestly, I want him to crash me. I mean, there's only a few that say they've been crashed by, well, maybe not a few, but if you're racing for a win and Earnhardt crashes you, that would be the way to have a solid race against him.
Is he the only guy that you'd be okay with wrecking you?
I'm sure in the moment I wouldn't be okay, but looking back, I know, Terry, when he watches the Bristol playback, one of the two, he finished with a wrecked race car and had the win, and the second one, he was tore up and didn't win and was clearly upset that night. But I'm sure he smiles with a little bit of pride now, and that's kind of the opinion I guess I would have. At the time, I'd be really upset about it, but a little time passes and you kind of smile.
Yeah, I just want to point this out because you made Holly Ann's day. She said, "Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to cry. If I ever met him, I would faint dead away. All the best of luck to Jimmy and his teammates for the rest of the season." So you made someone's day.
Good.
That's awesome.
It's not faint, please.
Sherilyn Jordan asks, "Can you please explain why you don't get to drive the Superman car when that has always been your nickname?"
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. I just get in and drive in circles, so people with a lot more authority make all those decisions.
You don't just drive in circles. You're much more talented than that.
Just trying to dumb it down. I'm not really sure. I don't have a good answer for it.
Well, hopefully you will in the future. Jimmy, we thank you so much for joining us today here on Inside Access. Thank all of you for participating in our live chat. We'll have more with Garage Cam coming up in a little bit.
Thanks, everybody.